internal JavaScript. First of all, make a local copy of our example file, apply -javascript.html, save it in a directory somewhere sensible. So we click here, and okay, so pretty much this is the code that they want us to copy. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into one of our files. I have a folder here called JavaScript. I'm gonna create another folder inside. I'm gonna call it okay, let me see, JavaScript. What is JavaScript example? Yeah, just example. So it's gonna be example. Okay, so this folder example, I'm gonna open in VS Code with right click, open in terminal. I'm gonna type code space dot and then press enter. Okay, I'm gonna close that. I'm gonna press Ctrl plus tilde. I'm gonna have my incorporated terminal. Here I'm gonna go what they tell us to do. Okay, so we need to create apply -javascript. Okay, so we need to create a HTML file. Let's just call it a script, the script.html, and we're gonna grab those 11 lines of code, and we're gonna paste it here. We're gonna save it with Ctrl S. Okay, so now we open it with right click, open with live server, or you can use also the, if you're in a Windows, Alt plus L, Alt plus O. So yeah, they're sending us to the localhost 5500 /script.html. so if I click it, nothing is happening because this is just a static page. It's just HTML, there's not JavaScript on it. So we're going to open the file in your web browser, and in your text editor you'll see that the HTML creates a simple web page containing a clickable button. Okay. 3. Next, go to your text editor and add the following in your head just before your closing open angle brackets /head tag. So we grab those lines of code, and just before the closing head, so right here, this is the closing head. No, this is the closing body, this is the closing head. And we're gonna type in, we're gonna paste those lines of code. Okay. 4. Now we'll add some JavaScript inside our script element to make the page do something more interesting. Add the following code just below the comment JavaScript goes here. So we grab these lines of code and we're gonna copy it here. Right now this is a comment. When you have to, in HTML, when you have 2 slashes, everything followed by that is comment. So I can start typing stuff, and this is gonna be a comment. So I pasted right here the code that we copied, and we save it with Ctrl S. So let's not make it, okay, that's fine. So we go to the local host, where is it, where it was, yeah, it was here. So I press click me, and now it's working because we have JavaScript inside an HTML file. So we go to 5. Save your file and refresh the browser. Now you should see that when you click the button, a new paragraph is generated and placed below. Yeah, right now I just pretty much wanted to show you how is the how you connected a JavaScript connection internally. um, Note, if your example doesn't seem to work, go through the steps again and check that you did everything right. Did you save your local copy of the starting code as that HTML file if it didn't work for you? Did you add your script element just before the script slash head tag? Did you enter the JavaScript exactly as shown? JavaScript is case sensitive and very fuzzy, so you need to enter the syntax exactly as shown, otherwise it might not work. Yeah, sometimes that's the reason I'm not typing it. Sometimes I just like to copy it because I might make a mistake with maybe an uppercase instead of a lowercase letter. So here you can see the version on the GitHub as apply JavaScript internal HTML, so you can go to this link too. But yeah, ours is working. Now we're gonna deal with the external JavaScript. uh, this works great, but what if we wanted to put our JavaScript in an external file? Let's explore this now. First, create a new file in the same directory as your sample HTML file. Call it script.js. Make sure it has a .js file name extension, as that's how it is recognized as JavaScript. So yeah, you know this is a HTML file because it ends up with a .html. So right now we're gonna create a JS file, a JavaScript file. It ends with JS like this. So the name of that file is gonna be script. Okay, and now replace your current script element with the following. So pretty much we're gonna be replacing this script line here, this whole thing, with just this single quote. So we paste it here, and as you can see, you have a script space source, and we're looking for the script.js file. So we're looking for this file. Right now we have nothing here. So for example, if we try to run it, let me see, if we click it, nothing is happening because we have nothing in our JS file. So we're gonna put some code in the JavaScript. We go to 3. Inside the script.js, add the following script. So we have a function, I create a paragraph, we have a button, we have a for loop. We're gonna paste it here in our JS file. So we have the function create a paragraph, const para =, document that create element is gonna target the paragraph, para that context is gonna change it. So you click the button, document that body that appendix child, it's gonna look for para. Outside of that, we're gonna have the const buttons, document that query selector all buttons. Outside of that, we're gonna have the for const button of buttons, button that add event listener. It's gonna listen for a click event and it's gonna create a paragraph. So right now you save it and now you try to open it. We can just go to our localhost 5500/script.html and we click it and it's working. It works because now this is our HTML is connected to our JavaScript through the external link. But now we go number 4, save and refresh your browser and you should see the same thing. It works just the same, but now we got our JavaScript in an external file. This is generally a good thing in terms of organizing your code and making it reusable across multiple HTML files. Plus, the HTML is easier to read without huge chunks of script dumping in it. So yeah, it's always a good idea to have. Like you saw in the internal JavaScript, you can start typing in your JavaScript in the HTML, but it's always a good idea to just separate it. So we have we have inline JavaScript handlers. Know that sometimes you'll come across bits of actual JavaScript code living inside HTML. It might look something like this: function create paragraph, then open curly braces, we have the const param equal sign document that create element is targeting the paragraph. We have ends up with a semicolon para that text content equal sign, you click the button, ends up with a semicolon document that body that appendix child open parenthesis para. Outside of that, we have angle brackets button on click equal sign create paragraph function, and close double quotation marks, close the angle brackets, and we have click me button. And you can try this version of the demo, you can try it here for example, but we also have it in our local host. Okay, so this demo has exactly the same functionality as in the previous two sections, except that the button element includes an inline on-click handler to make the function run when the button is pressed. Please don't do this, however. It is bad practice to populate your HTML with JavaScript, and it is inefficient. You'd have to include the on-click equal sign open double quotes create paragraph open parentheses attribute on every button you want the JavaScript to apply to. Using addEventListener instead of including JavaScript in your HTML, use a pure JavaScript construct. The query selector all, like we see here, the query selector all with parenthesis function allows you to select all the buttons on a page. You can then loop through the buttons, assigning a handler for each using addEventListener parentheses. The code for this is shown below. So this is the lines of code. These are the ones that we grabbed and we pasted here in our script.js file. Cons buttons. This might be a bit longer than on the click attribute, but it will work for all buttons, no matter how many are on the page, nor how many are added or removed. The JavaScript does not need to be changed. Note: try editing your version of apply-JavaScript. In our case, we use the folder example. I just name it script.html and script.js. Okay, script loading strategies. There are a number of issues involved with getting scripts to load at the right time. Nothing is as simple as it seems. A common problem is that all that the HTML on a page is loaded in the order in which it appears. If you are using JavaScript to manipulate elements on the page, or more accurately, the document object model, your code won't work if the JavaScript is loaded and parsed before HTML you are trying to do something to. And the above code examples and the internal and external examples, the JavaScript is loaded and run in the head of the document before the HTML body is parsed. This could cause an error, so we use some constructs to get around it. In the internal example, you can use this structure around the code. So you can use the document dot addEventListener open parentheses dot content loaded in single quotes, comma. Outside of that, we have the arrow function. We start with parentheses, then with the arrow function, then open curly braces. This is an event listener which listens for the browser's DAM content loaded event, which signifies that the HTML body is completely loaded and parsed. The JavaScript inside this block will not run until after the event is fired, therefore the error is avoided. You'll learn about it in events later in the course. Okay. In the external example, we use a more modern JavaScript feature to solve the problem, the defer attribute, which tells the browser to continue downloading the HTML content once the script tag element has been reached. So here we're using the defer attribute. We have the scripts. Okay, inside angle brackets we have the script, we have the source. It's assigned to the name of the file of the JavaScript file. In our case, we name it script.js, so that is what we're gonna put here inside of the double quotes. Outside of the double quotes, we're gonna use the defer attribute, and then we end up with angle brackets / script. In this case, both the script and the HTML will load simultaneously and the code will work. Note, in the external case, we did not need to use the DAM content loaded event because the defer attribute solved the problem for us. We didn't use the defer solution for the internal JavaScript example because defer only works for external scripts. So remember, the defer attribute only works for external scripts, and we have used the defer attribute here in our script.html file. So an old-fashioned solution to this problem used to put your script element right at the bottom of the body, e.g. just before the angle bracket / body tag, so that it would load after all the HTML has been parsed. The problem with this solution is that loading / parsing of the script is completely blocked until the HTML DAM has been loaded. On larger sites with lots of JavaScript, this can cause a major performance issue, slowing down your site. We have the async and the defer. There are actually two modern features we can use to bypass the problem of the blocking script, async and defer, which we saw above. You're gonna see a lot of this stuff. Let's look at the difference between these two. Scripts loaded using the async attribute will download the script without blocking the page while the script is being fetched. However, once the download is complete, the script will execute, which blocks the page from rendering. You get no guarantee that the scripts will run in any specific order. It is best to use async when the scripts and the page run independently from each other and depend on no other script on the page. Scripts loaded with the defer attribute will load in the order they appear on the page. They won't run until the page content has all loaded, which is useful if your scripts depend on the DAM being in place, e.g. they modify one or more elements on the page. Here is a visual representation of the different script loading methods and what that means for your page. So you have in angle brackets you have a script. So scripting HTML parser. You have in angle brackets script defer, scripting HTML parser. Then you have again in angle brackets script async, scripting HTML parser. Okay, so yeah, this image is from HTML specs. You can have the link here. Okay, for example, if you have the following script elements, so you have 3 script elements. So the first script element inside angle brackets, we have script async src for source, and we have inside double quotes js/vendor/ jQuery.js, and the second one we have script space async space source. We have js slash script2.js. Then we have the third one, script space async space source, double quotes. Inside the double quote we have the js slash script3.js. You can't rely on the order the scripts will load in. jQuery.js may load before or after script2.js and script3.js, and if this is the case, any functions and those scripts depending on jQuery will produce an error because jQuery will not be defined at the time of the script runs. Async should be used when you have a bunch of background scripts to load them and you just want to get them in place as soon as possible. For example, maybe you have some game data files to load which will be needed when the game actually begins, but for now you just want to get on with showing the game intro, titles and lobbies without them being blocked by script loading. Scripts loaded using the defer attribute will run in the order they appear in the page and execute them as soon as the script and content are downloaded. So that's the reason we're using the defer, so it can be executed in the order. So scripts loaded using the defer attribute will run in the order they appear in the page and execute them as soon as the script and content are downloaded. In this case we have script defer source js vendor slash query.js, gonna be the first one. Script defer source js slash script2.js, gonna be the second one. Script defer source js slash script3 is gonna be the third one. In the second example we can be sure that jQuery will load before script2.js and script3.js, and that script2.js will load before script3.js. They won't run until the page content has all loaded, which is useful if your scripts depend on the DOM being in place, e.g. they modify one or more elements on the page. To summarize, Async and Defer both instruct the browser to download the scripts in a separate thread, while the rest of the page, the DOM, etc., is downloading, so that the page loading is not blocked during the fetch process. Scripts with an async attribute will execute as soon as the download is complete. This blocks the page and does not guarantee any specific execution order. Scripts with a defer attribute will load in the order they are in and will only execute once everything has finished loading. If your scripts should be run immediately and they don't have any dependencies, then use async. If your scripts need to wait for parsing and depend on other scripts and /or the DOM being in place, load them using defer and put their corresponding script elements in the order you want the browser to execute them. So here we have comments. As with HTML and CSS, it is possible to write comments in your JavaScript code that will be ignored by the browser and exists to provide instructions to your fellow developers on how the code works. And if you come back to your code after 6 months and you can't remember what you did, comments are very useful and you should use them, particularly for large applications. There are two types. So we have a single line comment is written after a double forward slash. So you type in double slash or double forward slash. Okay, I am a comment. Let me see, like you go here to your HTML file below. We can go at the answer double forward slash. Okay, this is a comment. Okay, then you have the second one. A multi-line comment is written between the strings slash asterisk and asterisk slash. For example, again, we can have a slash asterisk. This is a comment, and then we end it with asterisk and forward slash. So this is another form of comment. So for example, we could annotate our last demos JavaScript with comments like so. So for example, we can there was in JavaScript. So we can go to our JavaScript, and for example, this would be a comment here. Function creates a new paragraph and append it to the bottom of the HTML body. Okay. Then we can also use this comment below, just before counts buttons. So we can place it right here. We had get reference to all the buttons on the page in an array format. Loop through all the buttons and add a click event listener to each one. When any button is pressed, the create paragraph function will be run. So those are forms of comments here. In general, more comments are usually better than less, but you should be careful if you find yourself adding lots of comments to explain what variables are. Your variable names perhaps should be more intuitive, or to explain very simple operations. Maybe your code is overcomplicated. So here we have the summary. So there you go, your first steps into the world of JavaScript. We've begun with just theory to start getting you used to why you use JavaScript and what kind of things you can do with it. Along the way, you saw a few code examples and learned how JavaScript fits in with the rest of the code on your website, among other things. So JavaScript may seem a bit daunting right now, but don't worry, in this course we will take you through the simple steps that will make sense going forward.